Chapter 12. The Butterfly Lion. We never had children of our own, just the White Prince, and I can tell you, he was enough of a family for anyone. He roamed free in the park just as we'd planned he would, and chased the deer and rabbits whenever he felt like it, but he never did learn how to kill for himself. You can't teach old lions new tricks. He lived well, on venison mostly, and slept on a sofa on the landing. I wouldn't have him inside our bedroom no matter how often Bertie asked. You have to draw the line somewhere. Bertie's leg never recovered completely. When it was bad, he often needed a stick, or me, or the lion to lean on. It pained him a lot, particularly when the weather was cold and damp, and he never slept well. On Sundays, the three of us would wander to the park together, and he would sit on top of Wood Hill with his arm around his old friend's neck, and I would fly kites. As you know, I've always loved kites, and so it turned out did the lion, who pounced on several of them as they landed, savaged them and ripped them to pieces. The lion never showed any interest in escaping, and even if he'd wanted to, the park wall was far too high for an old lion to jump. Wherever Bertie went, he wanted to go too, and if Bertie went out in the car, then he'd sit by me near the stove in the kitchen and watch me with those great amber eyes, listening all the while for the sound of Bertie's car coming up the gravel to the front of the house. The old lion lived on into a ripe old age, but he became stiff in his legs and could see very little towards the end. He spent his last days stretched out asleep at Bertie's feet, right where you're sitting now. When he died, we buried him at the bottom of the hill out there. Bertie wanted it that way so we could always see the spot from the kitchen window. I suggested we plant a tree in case we forgot where he was. I'll never forget, he said fiercely, never, and besides, he deserves a lot more than a tree. Bertie grieved on for weeks, months after the lion died. There was nothing I could do to cheer him or even console him. He would sit for hours in his room or go off on long walks all on his own. He seemed so shut away all inside himself, so distant. Try as I did, I couldn't reach him. Then, one day, I was in the kitchen here when I saw him hurrying down the hill, waving his stick and shouting for me. "I've got it," he cried as he came in. "I've got it at last." He showed me the end of his stick. It was white. "See that, Millie? Chalk. It's chalk underneath, isn't it?" "So?" I said. "You know the famous white horse on the hillside at Uffington, the one that was carved out of the chalk 1,000 years ago, the horse that never died? That horse never died, did it? It's still alive, isn't it? Well, that's what we're going to do, so he'll never be forgotten. We'll carve the White Prince out on the hillside. He'll be there forever, and he'll be white forever too." "It'll take a bit of time, won't it?" I said. "We've got plenty, haven't we?" he replied, with the same smile he'd smiled at me when he was a 10-year-old boy asking if he could come back to mend my kite for me. It took the next 20 years to do it. Every spare hour we had, we were up there scraping away with spades and trowels, and we had buckets and wheelbarrows to carry the turf and the earth. It was hard, back-breaking work, but it was a labour of love. We did it, Bertie and I. We did it together. Paws, claws, tail, mane, until he was whole and perfect in every detail. It was just after we'd finished that the butterflies first came. We noticed that when the sun comes out after the rain in the summer, the butterflies, Adonis blues they are, I looked them up, come out to drink on the chalk face. Then the White Princess becomes a butterfly lion and breathes again like a living creature. So now you know how Bertie's white lion became the White Prince, and how the White Prince became our butterfly lion.